Hey everyone, welcome to the Roundtable with Vienna Whyte, Season 1, Episode 44. I'm your host, Millie Rouge from the band Vienna Whyte here in Edmonton, Canada. This Roundtable is a Yank music production. Thank you all for tuning into the show today, this afternoon. We have two guests with us here. Our very first guest is Danny Sakic from the band Blushe, B-L-U-S-H-E, Blushe, from Springfield, Illinois. And then we also have our second guest today. I'm gonna say this right. Chelsea Foss Ralston. Okay, from the band Little Church in Chicago. So thank you both for being here today. I want to quickly just first start off by asking, how has your day been going so far? A very basic question.
For me, it's been wild, with quarantine and everything.
Yeah.
So right now my days pretty much look like waking up and doing whatever one thing that I thought of
that your mind gets set on.
and then Animal Crossing.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I do right now.
I have been looking for a Switch for like a month, but every time I go to the store, they're all sold out. Like every single one of them. I could not find one.
Kind of a necessity right now.
It's an essential need, in my opinion.
Yes, absolutely.
How about yourself, Chelsea? How's your day going so far?
In a very short response, my day has been very sweaty so far. I've been trying my best with quarantine to, be active and go for like 5 in the morning, and it's like I don't have AC in my apartment, so I do have this band now. So
That's really cool.
I like that.
And myself a little bit here and there because it's so freaking hot. But I'm good otherwise. Just a little sweaty.
Yeah, that's amazing. What's the temperature over there right now? Out of curiosity.
Like high 80s.
Okay.
Are you in Chicago right now?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I'm in Humboldt Park, which is my neighborhood. So
cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, awesome. Well, I wanted to jump in a little bit with you ladies today and talk about kind of your bands individually, because I myself don't know that much about you both, only from what I've seen on social media. So Danny, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your band Blushe and kind of how you came to be and how you are where you are now today with your band?
Sure. So Blushe is an all women, non-men group that I started about 2 years ago. With actually the way it came to be was that I noticed a lot of my bandmates and other bands and friends of mine in the scene who were male had a lot of girlfriends who would come and kind of be part of things for a short time or not really have a way to get in and sort of be a part of things and not know where to start, especially if they hadn't been playing music before. But you find somehow a lot of men end up just jumping in and finding it pretty easy to kind of start a band or make friends or get involved. So after like years in the scene, I just noticed that, and it's always been easy for me. Don't know why, just weird. But I noticed that was hard for a lot of women. So I kind of reached out to several women in the scene that I had noticed were really, it seemed like they really wanted to be part of things, but weren't given the opportunity to do that. So we all just it just kind of happened. We got together, a lot of hanging out, a lot of drinking wine, a lot of talking, a lot of, ideas, and we take it really slow, and then none of them had played music before or anything like that. And I've been playing for years and years. So I kind of just showed them what I knew and let them kind of take it under their own wing to learn what they wanted. And we just kind of made it happen. So
That's awesome.
2 years later, we just have become like the closest friends. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't really know them that well. I just knew their boyfriends. And so we've become very close, and we've done a lot together. We've made a lot of strides, and they've grown and I've grown, and it's been amazing. And we're just able to put out an EP. We're very slow.
Awesome.
We go real slow because we're very much more interested in chilling.
Yeah.
And fun
And having wine. Yeah.
yeah, and just talking and being together and using
Mhm.
music as an outlet to connect. So
Absolutely.
we take it really slow, and
Mhm.
we used to play a lot of shows before quarantine, and
Yeah.
just have a good time. We don't worry too much about it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds like really great, actually. I know
Yeah.
myself, my bandmate and I, Marissa, so she's like the other half of our band.
Hmm.
And we're both females, and we both kind of like we really wanted to really just make a female-based band just for band kind of members, but we had a really hard time, as you were kind of saying, like it's hard to find those people. But
Yes.
so we've kind of just decided going forward, we're like, well, we're gonna just keep like this really strong female front, but we're gonna probably have to hire people that are men, which is totally fine because they're cool too.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
we were really
totally.
striving to have more features of like women
Right.
in our music, and with like producers, there's very, very few female producers, which is really difficult to
Absolutely.
find. I've been struggling with that. So I get from your perspective
Yeah.
totally kind
And
of how you feel.
and my experience has been, obviously, like I said, I've been in bands for years with
Hmm.
my male friends, or I guess non-women friends, for a long time. And I've only had a few occurrences of being able to work with non-men uh, in music.
Hmm.
But I've tried really hard. It just
It's just more difficult to find
it's
for
hard.
sure.
So finally, with this project, I was like, screw
Yeah.
it. Let's start with fresh faces. They've never been in a band. Let's just start. Let's just
Yeah.
see what happens.
See where it goes. That's
Let's
awesome.
make it work. And it totally worked.
Yeah. Now I have to ask, what would you classify your genre as for your band?
So it's definitely a punk based
Mm.
band. Definitely Riot Girl lines. Little grungy though. A
Hmm.
little garagey. Some moments jammy.
Yeah. I love that.
It's kind of rock and roll Riot Girl.
Yeah, that's
Something like
amazing.
that.
No, I love it. We all kind of make up our own definitions because it's just
Yeah.
easier. It's easier that
Yeah.
way. All right. Now, Chelsea, I want to talk more about your band and kind of how your band came to be, Little Church. So can you tell us more about that?
So my band kind of came to be. I met my bandmate Christian, who plays bass, at a house party, and he was playing in a different band, and he was just amazing. And I like found him on the internet, and I was like, "Hey, dude, I don't know you, but you're fucking great. So if you ever have any free time and just like
Yeah.
want to hang out or just write some music, because I was in a different band as well, and but." He was like, yeah, for sure. And he came over to my house one day, and it's just history after that. We primarily started writing Little Church songs, just the two of us with vocals and bass, and slowly along the way we've added other members. So there's 4 of us all day now. But yeah, we kind of started with me and Christian. I have met pretty much all of my bandmates at some sort of DIY show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Way to do it.
some DIY show or party or something like that. So it's definitely a very community-based band, and we've all been in a bunch of different projects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. Now, I think you guys classify as indie pop. Is that correct?
Sort of. I think indie in general is like an umbrella term for a bunch of things that people might not understand yet. We say we're sort of, when we signed with the label, we kind of had to like identify a little bit more one way or another. But to us, we're a hybrid genre. So we're like art pop, neo soul, psychedelic rock.
Ooh, okay, very cool. That totally changes things for sure. That's really awesome. Well, thank you both for sharing about that a little more. It's great to hear kind of the background. So I have a topic for today that I want to jump into, which I think you both have mentioned pretty well already. So our topic of the day is connecting as a band. Now, this seems like it's like, okay, that's very simple. You just connect with the band, you just talk to them. But I think if you want longevity in a band and you want to really make it far or kind of make it together, you really need to have a good solid connection. So my first question for the both of you, is what is your favorite part about being in a band? It's a very easy question to start off. So Danny, what's your favorite part about your all female fronted band?
With this band, it's definitely, for me, it's the friendship, it's the bonds among women. I haven't always been great about connecting with women as friends. I have to be doing something. I don't know why. I always feel like I have to be working on something, and this has been such a great way for me to get there, if that makes sense. Just really to be with the people that I care about and listen and be present. A lot of our band really is more so about just us listening to each other and supporting each other, especially since we started with most of the members not really knowing much about it.
Right.
So, you know, as we've worked through that, and as they've learned and I've learned, you know, we've had to be there for each other. And I think that's something unique to having, like, especially having women in a project and you've never been in anything before, it's scary, you know, and it's hard when you haven't had any experience since you were a kid. Like, most of us have been playing since we were a kid, and if you haven't, that's pretty intimidating. So just, I think for me, it's building those bonds and just caring for these women and like growing these really deep bonds of like feminine friendship for me with this band.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important. Like, I know with my bandmate and I, we actually went to the same college, like music college together. But at the time we didn't really know each other because she was like a year ahead of me. So we knew of each other, but we didn't actually meet or talk. But then when we kind of reconnected a few years down the road, we were both like, this is awesome. Like, it's like you have someone always to talk to about everything. And it's just like, it's a really different, special connection compared to just like, you know, a friend that you have growing up or that you meet when you're a little bit older. So I think it's a band relationship it's totally different. And it's really cool to have that really
gives
special.
you this outlet, this thing to focus on. But then you have all this other time to like connect as people. It's very unique. It's something I think I always needed. Like, and that's kind of how I made all my friends, like, that I have. Even my like male or non-women friends have been all because of just playing music with them.
Absolutely.
I think that's probably why I didn't have a lot of women friends before, is because there's just the people you play music with are your friends. And I was like, I want women friends. Let's make a band.
That's a great way to start.
Yeah.
Now, Chelsea, I know you said you've been in a few different bands. So what's your favorite part about being in this band, Little Church, that you're in now?
I think we're all kind of saying the same thing when we say that, like, we play together and there's some sort of like emotional release from it. For me, when I used to be an actor and I was like say other people's words that was written for me, but now instead I get to say like my own words. And there's never any judgment. It's we have a sense of community within like how we're writing nowadays. It's not just me and Christian anymore. Like, I could bring a very simple idea to the whole group, and at the end of practice we've written a full song. So not only is this band, I feel like, pretty receptive and very open, but we also get a lot done, which is very productive as well. So that's probably my favorite part about being in Little Church.
That's really awesome.
It's cool that you say that. Like, that's something I also kind of had the experience of with this band too, is like starting off, my friends didn't play music yet. So I would write these songs, just me basically, to kind of get them going, but to still start creating some original stuff for us. And then now everything is all four of us together. Like, it's bringing an idea. One person brings an idea, and we all add to that. We all contribute to that, and it's kind of progressed in a similar way to what you're describing. That's really cool.
For me too, because we are a hybrid genre band, because we all have different musical backgrounds and different influences, it allows for the band to have a bunch of different influences. So when we get done playing a show, there's not just like one person who's like, oh, you remind me of this, or you remind me of that. It's a bunch of different feedback. So
because you're all across the board. So I mean, that's got to be fun, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess my next question, it seems like it's a very simple, basic question, but why do you think it's the most important thing as a band to have a really good connection between you and your members? Why do you think that is a crucial thing if you want to be a successful band? Chelsea, did you want to start it off on why you kind of think that way? Or don't think that way?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, no, that's okay. So why do you think it's important as a band to have a good connection between the members?
Well, first and first, mostly, I mean, most of us are doing this from the heart. You know, there's no real money involved. So if you don't have a good connection and purpose behind what you're doing, you know, it's kind of like, what are you doing it for? So I think if you don't have that, there isn't really much purpose to doing it. You need to want to be there and want to do things and progress.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And Danny, how about you? Is there anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think music it's not a business. Like, we're not making any money. So I think, especially for my situation, it's all based on friendship and being able to communicate and hear, like I said, like hear and listen to each person and what they bring to the table. And if you don't have a good bond and connection, I don't know how effectively you can do that. So
how long you could last as a band, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say is the most difficult part about being in a band? Because I know obviously when you're a solo artist, it's quite easy, but what do you think is the difficult part about being in a 4-piece or a 3-piece band? Danny, what do you think?
For my band and for other bands, it's usually just literally the scheduling, I mean, people have different things going on in their lives, and each one of us in the band, it has a main day job and like something we actually do professionally or as a 9 to 5 or something like that. So for us, the challenge is usually just getting together and finding the time to do that, and then all, actually finding more than just an hour or something to actually work and get down to business, because sometimes it can be really challenging to try to get anything done with just an hour, especially when you're us and we just want to talk and we want to chill. So an hour is just not enough, so
it's unfortunate that you can't quarantine with your band right now, because how cool would that be? You guys can get so much done.
Totally.
And Chelsea, kind of what do you think are the hard parts or the struggles of being in a band sometimes?
Kind of just based off of what Danny said, it for me in general, it's just like the management of all of it. It's not really been a problem for us to get together and have like 2.5 hour practices on a regular basis. It's more about, for me, it's like doing the social media and then like responding to all the emails and like making sure that I also have a very heavy hand in like the content creation as far as like music videos and the styling of photo shoots and stuff like that. So for me, it's managing all of that, but I'm happy to do it because I like it,
So kind of the non-music parts.
Everything that is not related to music is the more difficult
part. For sure. I absolutely agree. And I think a lot of musicians don't come from that business perspective and that business mind. So it's very hard for us to tap in to be like, okay, I need to ask for this much to be paid. I need to not be ripped off. I need to stand up for myself. I need to, do my own social media promotion, like you said, which is, seems easy, but if you're doing it daily, you're trying to make a constant, it's tough. It's really, really tough. So I guess, I mean, I feel like Danny, you kind of already mentioned this, but do you think it's important to hang out and spend time together outside of practicing or playing shows? Why or why not?
Always, always.
Yeah.
more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
For this band.
Yeah.
My other bands, not so much. But
Mm-hmm.
for this band, absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Do you think that made a difference when you were in other bands and you didn't have that as much one-on-one like connection time? Like what kind of differences did you notice, I guess,
In
between
my
those
other
bands?
bands, it's quite different because we really get to work, we get together to work, we
Mm-hmm.
get together to create, and we may have a meal or, chill for a little bit before and after.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever, but typically we don't say, hey, what are you doing? You want to go to whatever and get a burger or whatever, like,
Yeah.
unless we're going to practice or do something, because I think we all see it as an opportunity to practice if we're all available.
Together. Yeah.
So we shouldn't be just sitting there. But with this band, but with Blushe, first things first, we're going to chill, and talk and hang out, and connect and
Yeah.
be together, support one another, and then we're gonna get down to it and make it
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of good conversation can kind of stimulate songwriting and ideas. And I think that's the important part about hanging out with each other is it's like, how are we going to know what we're thinking if
And
we're not
are
even
we
kind of
all
on the
on the
same
same
wavelength?
page? Yeah,
Yeah,
are we all on the same
totally.
page?
Yeah.
And do we all want the same thing for this band? And what are you
Yeah.
imagining for it? And all of
Totally.
that needs to be happening. And then
Mhm.
also there needs to be, it's great if there is
Yeah.
a real true friendship connection as well,
Mhm.
where you can say, hey, I don't feel right about this,
Yeah.
that, or the other thing, and I don't know, what do you think? Like,
Mhm.
just being real friends to one another as well.
Absolutely. Makes it a lot easier for sure.
Yeah.
Now, Chelsea, what's kind of your experience with this? What do you think? Why do you think it's important to spend quality time together? If you do or if you don't, why do you think it's important or not important?
It's important because if you don't have that personal connection outside of practice space, like, because for me in the practice space, I can be kind of like have a schedule of what I'm trying to get done. I can be super business oriented, and if that's all that I was to see of the bandmates, they wouldn't even really know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
So if so I don't know, I think it would just feel very cold hearted,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
experience in general.
Yeah, it would feel more like a job, I think, more than anything, rather than enjoying it or simply being like, this is a really great time. Like it would feel like a 9 to 5 job, kind of like you mentioned, Danny. That's how I would feel, at least if there's no
Yeah.
connection or no anything, for sure. So my next question is kind of to figure out, how do you get to know if this person is right for your band? So if, for example, you had an opening for a bass player or a drummer, and if they're auditioning for your band, what are some things that you think would stand out that you'd be like, okay, they're a good fit for our band? Now, Chelsea, I know you said you started out as two band members and you eventually added on more. So kind of how did you get through that process of adding more people and knowing if they're the right fit for your band?
So we added Sean on synth because he was already kind of acting as like our in-house producer for one of our first EPs, and he was playing and coming up with all these synth parts for the actual record. And then it was kind of just like, well,
Yeah.
why don't you just play with us live? So we actually recently had to replace our drummer, Corey. We have a new drummer. His name is Zach. And I've actually been friends with Zach since we were 12. We went to rock camp together.
Rock camp.
Rock camp together. But even so, he still had to audition. We auditioned about 5 different drummers, just because we wanted to make sure that we had somebody who wasn't in it just for shows, but also was in it for the long haul, like wanted to be a part of a great album and a great record and a band that is really close with each other. So what we did was we had them play one song that they had to learn, that was just like we already had. And then the second part of their audition was like, here's an idea, so we're going to roll with it. We're going to write a new song right now. So if they couldn't hang or they couldn't kind of write on the spot, it was kind of telling to us because we needed that for our bands.
Yeah, that's a really great way, actually. I love that you guys collaboratively write a song with who you audition. I think that's a great tool I never would have thought of. So
That's
that's
a
awesome.
really cool way to do it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, it wasn't like we totally left them out there to dry. We had some guitar parts,
Sure. Yeah.
parts, but it was just
Right.
kind of like, oh, let's see your flavor. Like, let's
Yeah.
go.
Let's see how it
Does
works
it
out.
work with us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Danny, I know, because you kind of said you started as yourself and then you added, did you audition kind of any of your members, or did it just kind of collaboratively really jam really well?
So our scene here in Springfield, most of the time we all know each other, have seen each other play. Um, it's a quite small community in the DIY scene here, just because we're a smaller town. So most of the musicians that are into the punk scene, or I use punk loosely, I would consider most of us to be part of that.
Mhm.
We all know people's flavor already, kind of. And so typically with the formation of a band, you would choose people you know that you've seen play, and you want to just jam with them, try it out. And then if that group doesn't work, you just kind of throw it away.
Yeah.
So that kind of, and not throw it away like never play again, but it just kind of doesn't pick up, or
Fizzles out,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, it phases out. So that's typically how it's usually done, and that's how I've ended up in most of my projects. Or just like sitting with your friends and being like, do you want to make a band? Like, you want to write a song?
Start
Let's
a band?
see what happens. You want to just see where it goes? And
Yeah.
Crazy? Are we being crazy right
yeah. God, should we start a band? Yeah, it is kind of like that, chilling or whatever. And then with this band, though, it was definitely an intentional decision to choose. Like I said, when a had never played before, or even I didn't know anything about their abilities or talents or skills, and I didn't really care. That wasn't really what it was for me. Other bands, yes, you choose based on skill and flavor and fit. This band is more of a traditional, kind of goes along with the Riot Grrrl roots of bucket. Let's
do it.
do it. Let's just,
Yeah.
who are you? And we'll make it happen. Like,
That's awesome.
We'll make it fit.
Yeah.
Like, and if we need to tweak some things, I'm like committed to making us fit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it can be a lot of different ways. It can look a lot of different ways. I've never auditioned somebody for a band.
Weird. We never did it either, but we had.
It's so interesting though. Like I would imagine that you get to that point where it's like, okay, it's really important that we're already established here. So if we're gonna pick someone new, it needs to fit. It needs to actually. So the difference there is whether you start together or not, I guess, is kind of the question. Because if you're already established, you have to find the right person. But if you're not, you can just make it happen, and make it what it is. So
absolutely.
For us too, like this, like our first drummer having to leave the band happened in the middle of him recording half of the album, and the other half of the album wasn't finished yet.
Wow.
Wasn't even finished being written yet. So we needed to have somebody that was down to not only like play shows and record, but also write. So it's really weird.
And make things that fit, right? Like with the rest of the record. It had to make sense,
Yeah.
And it would, yeah.
No, I agree. That would be a very hard
how
transition.
all the different ways that this can work out, with choosing members and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have one more question for both of you ladies. What advice would you give to a baby band who is just starting out, and kind of how to keep, I guess the advice I'm asking for is how to keep that connection alive throughout their whole band career? Now, Chelsea, what kind of do you think about this and keeping that connection, to giving that advice to a brand new baby band?
I would say, well, at least in Chicago, there are some random third-party bookers that like to book bands at different venues, but they don't actually work in-house for those venues. So I would say no to those kind of third-party shows. I would say curate your own shows. You know, reach out to other people that you don't know, curate your shows. Don't restrict yourself to any particular kind of genre. I mean, Little Church, we play with all kinds of different bands and performers and artists, from hip hop to punk. It's really just all over the place. And so I think because of that, you can build a better and bigger community. And that's really what being in a band is about, and being in the scene is about. I would also have to say, like, for me, like as a vocalist, just keep singing. Even if people don't get it yet, just keep singing, because somebody will eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Danny, what advice would you give?
I think if you're really truly just starting off, I really think it's important to let yourself be awful for a while. Like, just, I mean, practice, do your best, but it's okay if you're not perfect from the beginning.
Away. Yeah.
It's okay. And the only reason you'd have to worry about that would be for yourself, you know, and just accepting yourself where you're at, and knowing that the people who matter won't care that you suck. They'll just want you to be there and to try.
Yeah.
And they'll watch you grow. So you have to be willing to start somewhere and start off, and accept that it's not always going to be perfect right away. And then also just taking that time to make sure that you are kind of achieving what you were looking for at the beginning. Like checking in with the band. Hey, are we doing what we wanted originally? Are we getting there? Are we on track? Are we not? And has the track changed? Do we want something different? So like thinking about those goals, but also being flexible with them. Because as someone who's been in a lot of bands, I used to be very like, let's get this done. It's gonna look like this. It's gonna sound like this. And if it starts to sound different, we gotta rewrite. No, not anymore. That's something I've definitely learned, is to let things be what they are, and progress how they will. And if your band's truly for you, and it will happen.
It'll work itself out. Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. Yeah. Well, thank you both for sharing. That was our last question for the day. We're unfortunately out of time, but we were so lucky to have had you both on. If you guys are at home watching this roundtable with Vienna Whyte on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button, because we post 2 shows a day. So there's lots of content to watch Monday to Friday. If you want to hear, that's my alarm, sorry. If you want to hear this conversation via podcast style, just search up the Vienna Whyte podcast to find it. Now, before we sign off, could I get you both just to say your band name and where our audience can find you on social media? So Danny, can you start it off?
Yeah, so my band is called Blushe, and we're from Springfield, Illinois. You can find us on Instagram at Blushe Band, or on Bandcamp at blusheband.bandcamp.com.
Fantastic. And Chelsea?
My band is called Little Church, and you can find us on Spotify. Just type in Little Church. We're also on the Bookface, aka Facebook, Little Church, and as well as Instagram, and it's just at Little Church _.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both so much.
We're on Spotify too. I forgot to say, if you just look for Blushe.
Perfect.
Sorry.
You can find both of these ladies on Spotify for their band, so make sure to check them out. Thank you both so much. I hope you all have a great day. It was great meeting you. Bye-bye.
Bye.